Makers.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. This is Winners and Losers, the final winners and losers of the season. It's Pete, it's Gav, and it's Davo here this evening. Two winners, two losers. The boys have picked them, so if you have any problems, get on to them. They're on social media and you can abuse them. Pete, how are you?
All good, no complaints. Some
Yeah, it
weekend, wasn't
was a great weekend. I have to say, it was a great weekend. There was loads going on. We're going to talk about the relegation zone because that's all I really watched on Sunday. You know, I had Liverpool on, and but I was betting to the relegation stuff. But no, it was a great weekend. Davo, how are you?
Grand, yeah, no complaints, not a bother. Yeah, the final day is always a bit mad, isn't it? There's not
Yeah,
really something going on, so
yeah,
and it didn't disappoint. I didn't see a
no,
ball kick now myself, to be honest with you, but sure, fucking all we needed was the results, didn't we? So
yeah. No, it was a brilliant weekend of football, and you know, the lads yesterday covered their game, and then we were on the fat back four last night talking about Liverpool. But tonight is all about it's more or less about the relegation zone we're going to talk about tonight and what happened at the weekend and stuff like that. So as I said, two winners, two losers. If you're in and you're watching, you're very, very welcome. Make sure to throw some comments in there and I'll read out as many as I possibly can. If you haven't hit the like button, do it now. Get it out of the way nice and early. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, hit the bell icon, and every time we're going live, you will know about it. And the season's over, but we don't stop. So we'll probably have a day off tomorrow, and then we're back into more shows, and it'll go on throughout the summer. Whereas I said last night, we're going to have a laugh over the summer because that's what we try to do. Um, but we're going to start, P. We're going to start with you. Let's start with a winner. Let's start on a positive, P. Who is your winner of the week?
Luton Town Football Club,
Okay.
definitely. I mean, where do you start? We'll go back to the start, really. 2008, they deducted 30 points for financial irregularities, having had subsequent relegations on the way down to League Two. So they start off League Two in the 2008-2009 season, minus 30 points. They've had, after having three bouts of insolvency. I think this is their third bout. But it's a financial irregularity that we will be familiar with from in our dealings with a certain team in Manchester. They're they kind of had invented a couple of sponsorships and had put some money, I think, through agents, fronting that it was coming from different parts of the world rather than where it was
it
really coming.
sounds like another club, Pete. I know.
Sounds familiar, and the reason, to be honest with you, the reason I draw the contrast, and we'll talk about it later on, obviously, is because the football authorities show that when they do want to bare their teeth, they can, and they don't wait around. Their attitude is, you've been caught doing it before, and we're not going to wait till the end of the season. We're gonna do you now. So you're gonna start off the season minus 30 points. So everybody around them knows what they have to do, and it's the way it should be. Or in sport, you should be guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. But anyway, that aside, they then have no choice but to get their act together. They actually ended up getting 56 points that season, I think, in and around 56 points. We should have seen them in around 12 or 13, which is comfortable mid-table in a league of 24 teams, but they end up finishing rock bottom and go down to the conference, which is where the fun and games begin. When you have a club this size, now I'm not saying they're a massive club, but they're a massive name, Luton. When you go down to non-league football, all eyes on you. They struggle for the best part of a decade. Not, they don't struggle with results. They struggle to get themselves across the line. They have a series of near misses, losing playoff finals left, right, and centre. A lot of good managers going in there trying to make themselves legends. I think eventually John Steele gets them out of the conference. A very, very famous kind of lower league manager. He's now a legend there, obviously. and then you go into the kind of Nathan Jones years where they're creeping up through the divisions, but painfully slow, and again losing playoff finals. And eventually they find themselves more than a decade later in the championship, and you see where they are now. And the reason they are my winner of the week, it'd be like, I mean, I can only think of, I compared everyone to Liverpool. It'd be like Liverpool, getting some sort of really harsh punishment and ending up down there. And all of a sudden, because that weight of expectation is on your shoulders, you go into every game knowing that it's your opposition's cup final. Anyway, more than a decade, almost a decade and a half later, they end up back, not quite where they belong, because I'm not going to even pretend that they're not an Aston Villa by any stretch of the imagination. But when we started watching football, certainly Gavin, you and I, our age, Luton Town were, in the old Fourth Division,
plastic pitch,
the Foster years, and and on that plastic pitch at Loftus Road, or Kenilworth. Loftus is QPR. Kenilworth.
They had a plastic pitch as well.
So for me, the fact that it's been such a struggle, they're definitely my winners, and the fact that they've been up against it, and if everyone will know watching this will know why I've picked them out, especially because, again, when the authorities want to show their teeth and they want to actually punish you for what you've done, they can do it, and they came back a better club. They're well organised, and they would probably look back and say, "You've made us what we are by making us face the way we were behaving," and now they're in probably the best shape of their existence.
Davo, are you looking forward to Luton back in the Premier League, or are you just looking forward to seeing how fans get into the away end? Because that's the story for me.
Not say it's been all over Twitter all day.
It's amazing.
Banging up random pictures.
It came up about a year ago. It came up about a year ago because they were in the semi-final against Huddersfield, I think, last year, and got beat. They drew at home and they got beaten away 1-0. Yeah, man, Rhodes got the goal. Yeah. And that's what about when I seen it, that one, I was like, look at this, they're walking through some one's back garden here to get to the away end. But like Oisin says there's a 10-minute video on their rise to the Premier League. It's great. Watch the playoffs agony in the National League, multiple attempts especially. But Davo, like when you actually look at that video that's on Twitter, it's a ridiculous story when you think about it.
Yeah, look, and listen, I don't think that would have been Coventry as well if they had got up. I think that both of these played in League 2 5 years ago, and then
Coventry were bottom of the division, I think.
Yeah, they're in the playoff final. Listen, they're actually one of the founder members of the Premier League. They were relegated the year that before the Premier League started, so they were actually in the meetings as founder members of the Premier League, and this will be the first time, obviously, that they're going to play. And he asked me, am I looking forward to Liverpool going there? Absolutely fucking knockout, because I can tell you now, of a decent record with this, and I called it last year in the first day of the season as well. We will be going away to them probably on the first day of the season.
Yeah, because
we're after asking for our first game to be away.
Yeah,
and that'll be a fucking Friday night or something like that. They'll probably get about 27 points next season, and fucking 3 of them be off Liverpool on the first night of the season probably.
You're setting it right into next season already, aren't you?
Right in already. No, but listen, it's fucking. You can see it a mile off. The newly promoted teams, if the fixture comes out and they're at home, it'll be against a big team. Nearly, it'll be fucking like we went. It was obviously Fulham for us, but we've gone to newly promoted teams. Well, look at Arsenal and Brentford that time.
I think Watford when Salah made his debut, might be one of them.
Yeah, so listen, we'd probably be nailed on to be going there in the first Friday night of the season. So, no, not looking forward to going there. I haven't seen them. I've read they're very direct. They get the ball forward to a couple of big lads. So, fucking sounds ominous, doesn't it?
They do you know what they? Like, the story is great, and the story of Coventry is great as well, in fairness. Like you mentioned for Coventry, like, were in the Premier League up until, I want to say, around 99, 2000-ish, in around that time. Might have been a bit later than that, but I'm nearly sure they go down under Strachan and they don't come back up. And they've had all sorts of problems. They go up on Highfield Road to the Ricoh Arena. They lose the stadium. They've played home games at Birmingham for a full season, not so long ago. Mike Ashley now owns that stadium. They've had all sorts of issues, like, money wise and just staying afloat. And like, to see them up. Honestly, I was edging towards Coventry just because I know Coventry a bit more, and the story of Coventry is a bit more out there. But then when you look at the Luton story and you see, and I know we're laughing about the away end and stuff, but that's just the way some clubs are. Like, we laugh at that, but then when you look at Bournemouth have that Vitality Stadium or whatever it's called, and I don't know if that goes over 12,000 or something like that.
I think it's about 14.5.
Is around that.
15.
Kenilworth Road that currently holds 10,500. Now, I can't see them doing anything to that stadium in 3 months to make it bigger. Do you know the sort of way?
But they have to do something.
They'll have to do. They might have to do something, but what can you do? Like, it's May the 29th or something now, right? The season starts on August the 12th. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We're not.
They might end up playing at Vicarage Road, I'd imagine. They'll end up playing at Vicarage Road, I'd imagine. Watford is only up the road.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I mean, you're right, Gav. 3 months is nothing. You get the best builders in the world, and I'm sure there's a lot of fellas throwing their hats in the ring for that contract. But you can see them at least for 6 or 7 months having to play at Watford. Yeah, definitely.
It's but it is a brilliant story. The match was brilliant. The penalties, I felt sorry for the fella missing the penalty. When he missed it, I thought to myself, you never go high like that. Never open your body up and try to go high on a penalty. Just get it on target and hit it hard. But they're up. They join Burnley and Sheffield United in the league. Now, Burnley have been up and down, Sheffield United, but Luton, as much as you want Coventry, Luton's a bit of a new name, the sort of way, and there's a bit of excitement comes with that. What can they do? I don't know, but they're getting 100 million quid. So, and
also, Pete mentioned Watford there. Watford sacked the manager. The man Rob Edwards, and he leaves, goes to that. I think I'm led to believe that Luton and Watford are big rivals. He goes to their rivals. Watford are an absolute fucking shit show, as they normally are. They go through fucking managers like wildfire, and your man goes to their rivals and gets them promoted. It makes them look fucking stupid, which is great. So fair play to him, and also get well soon with your man who collapsed actually on the pitch. He seems to be all right now.
Did anything come out of that?
They haven't announced it about it. He's all right anyway, which is the main thing.
Yeah, because I was watching
his career. I don't know. But
I was watching, and I happened now. Honestly, when I'm in the house, the football's on. I'd be wandering out. There'd be kids. There'd be everything. But I happened to be sitting here on Saturday. I'm no one around, and it was on. And I sat down to watch it. And as I turned it on, this guy Lockyer, isn't that his name? He was introducing. He was one of the main men at Sky or Sky Bet or something. He was the guest of honour, and and they were talking about this fella Lockyer, and he's their inspirational captain. He's got goals in the playoff semi-finals, and going through it. And I just thought, didn't look the biggest of centre halves, but I thought he must just put his head in everywhere. A couple of minutes into the game, ball gets flung in. He gets a great header on it. They have a goal disallowed for offside, but you could see it straight away. This fella just looked like a bit of a warrior for them at the back. And then the ball goes down the other end. Coventry get a free kick. Next of all, this guy's lying on the ground. I was like, that's nowhere near where that free kick was. And I was looking, and it was just, I went onto Twitter to see if anybody had posted it. And some guy on Twitter had posted it and shown him he's literally running and just falls and then actually moves his body to get back up and just goes again. And the minute I seen that, I thought, wow, there's something drastically wrong here. Because even there wasn't loads of panic around them. It wasn't like the Christian Eriksen thing where there was just out, panic everywhere. I think, in fairness, the Coventry and the Luton staff between them done very well to get the players away and keep everybody calm, because it was very early in the game. And he was down for a long while. They did say he was in the medical room. His parents were down to him and he was conscious. So I don't know what's gone on there. You never know.
No, there was a video of him watching the game then in the watching the penalties and that in the
okay, I didn't see that.
The hospital bed, and he's fine.
Yeah,
as regarding
to be honest,
he's all right. As regarding going forward playing, I don't know, but he's well at the minute anyway.
You look like you fainted. You look like you fainted. Look to me like someone who fainted. It can happen. It doesn't just happen to damsels in distress. It can happen to a man. It's a combination of stress, just a lack of oxygen for a 5 or 6 or 2 or 3 second spell to the brain, and he can just faint. And he's one of those fellas that go, as you take that, leads with his head. All of the clips that you'll see, it's him throwing himself in amongst 3 and 4 lads. So he's probably not averse to taking a smack or two. And sometimes it can be something innocuous, and a few seconds later, just bang, you're gone. And because of the rules now, they won't take the chance. They won't kind of give you a smelling salt and say, get on with it. It's no. We're not taking any chances here. You're out. You're getting an MRI, and that's it. So it looked to me like he fainted, to be honest.
Paul Giovanni says Luton are the 54th team to join the Premier League. Weird but cool stat I saw. Ashley L says Lockyer, this is about Lockyer, was quoted by Sky saying, I'm feeling very much myself, helped by the way the lads left it all on the pitch, which is good. And Venom 23 says he or she feels they will definitely play at Kenilworth Road. I don't see why they wouldn't. Like, I get the whole 10,000 thing. They have to hand over so many tickets for away fans, but that's only 5%. They only have to hand over 500 tickets because I know Liverpool get a really low allocation at Bournemouth's ground, and that's just the way it is, But the Premier League, when you go up to them levels, you have to look at access and health and safety and stuff like that. But I don't know how much difference there will be between the Championship and the Premier League with regards to those rules. But I'd like to see them stay at Kenilworth Road and do it. Davo's going to have nightmares about the fixtures. But you heard it here first.
They're probably out now 3 days, the fixtures. They normally fucking come out.
They're out on the
Yeah.
15th of June, 9 p.m.
It's a
9
handy
a.m.
one for the trip. It's a handy one. You get to Stansted Airport. And
yeah, be getting tickets though. That's the only thing.
You'll be watching it. You'll be watching that Elwyn's back garden.
Yeah, that's it. It was like someone said on Twitter the other day, VAR in Kenilworth Road is going to be amazing. The ref would go to look at the screen, he'd be just looking at the Sky replay in some Elwyn's sitting room.
You look into the west. Will you move your arse, Mrs.
Yeah. There's a minimum of 10 million to be put into Kenilworth Road to meet Premier League relegation, says Emma Kavanagh. Now, what that 10 million will do, I don't know what I don't know what they do to get that 10 million. Like they spend it, but what did they spend it on to make the access better? Like, it's literally, if you look at Google Maps of Kenilworth Road, it's completely surrounded by houses.
I'd say it's probably that 10 million will go on kind of infrastructure within the ground rather than seats and stuff like that. I think they'll be just kind of upgrading everything they need to upgrade for fucking television and fucking press and all that kind of mess.
Have to build a bridging system over those houses. Or else they might try to do what they did. Spurs didn't want to move away really from White Hart Lane. I think they looked at buying all the houses around it, because I used to go quite a lot there. And the story was there was a lot of people wanted to sell, but there was a couple of people that just were like, no, and they were driving the price up and up, and apparently they offered insane money to two elderly couples, and they just refused to sell.
Venom says that Luton are building a new ground, and the new ground will be ready in 2026. It's and Avo says he feels that the 10 million is probably around VAR and TV access and stuff like that, which you will have to have for the Premier League. Thor says, Gav, you talk about the lad who collapsed. It's another reason why the authorities need to clamp down on head injury fakers. I'd throw the book of them if it's proved they are faking. And with regards to head injuries, I get where you're coming from, but this is probably a little bit of a different situation. No one was near him. He just hit the deck, and thankfully he is up. He's okay. And listen, it could be a case of he had heat stroke. Do you know what I mean? It was a very, very hot day at Wembley. Dehydration. You'd hope it's something like that rather than something serious where a player who looks like he's given everything for Luton and may not get to play in the Premier League after captaining them all season. But it's one of those. But we will Eunice has upgraded facilities, chairs, toilets, cameras, etc., etc. But listen, we'll know about it. I'm sure we'll all see it early on when we're playing Friday night, Friday the 11th of August, I think, away at Luton for our fourth day of the season, and Davo will be absolutely behind the sofa from the Friday morning. But look, fair play to Luton, and congratulations to them on getting to the Premier League. I don't know how they'll fare, but if anything about them, they should enjoy it. It's a massive. It's just a massive. Shot of money to them, especially if they're building a new stadium in three years or whatever it is.
And they're going to need every penny, Gav, because I would say, I've watched quite a bit of them, and I can't say that any of them, not one of those players, Davo, I don't know if you've watched them, but not one of those players, maybe the Adebayo lad up front is good for 15 minutes at the highest level, and that's to come on as an impact and cause a few problems. There is not one of those players, even the lad who fainted, who's been amazing in the Championship. There's not one of those that it'll be a Nottingham Forest job.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Forrest done it and he got away with it, so you never know. Emmett says, Jesus, he couldn't get an angle on Saka's offside at the Emirates earlier last season. What hope have we got a Luton CCTV from some lad's pigeon loft? Look, it's big. And TLLFC says they're getting battered. They probably will, but they should enjoy it. I think Luton should come up with the thing of, we're going to enjoy this season. We're going to take all the money that we can get out of it, which they will be a lot. And if they go back in the Championship, fine, but they go back in the Championship stronger with a new ground coming. It's actually a really good platform for them to, and it's an extra bonus, really, isn't it? Looking at a new stadium, because new stadiums cost an awful lot of money. Moving on, Davo, we're going to go negative now. Your loser of the week.
Oh, it has to be Leicester. Well, it could have went Leeds, but really they were down before the ball was kicked. Really, yes, they can see, and especially after 2 minutes when Kane puts Spurs 1-0 up, so that was done to death. But yeah, look, it has to be Leicester. Jesus, they're the team that's gone down with the highest wage bill ever from the Premier League. They're the 8th highest wage bill in the league, 180 odd million quid. They're going to need to trim that by 2 towards, I think. And they get down. I was reading a bit from your man, the finance fella, Kieran Maguire, earlier. He was saying Championship is normally around 60, 70-ish million wage bill. Leicester's is 180. I'm not really sure. I don't think so. But judging how Leicester will be looking up, I don't think there's many contracts that'll be kind of have a relegation clause in it from the players, so they'll be stuck paying the wages for the ones that'll stay. And listen, I know Gary Lineker came out and said, "Look, if you told me 8 years ago we'd go up, win a league, win the FA Cup, and go down, they'd all take a hand off for it. Of course they would. They've had a brilliant 8 years, but my Jesus, how wrong it's gone." Like this year, and it just got. Listen, I don't rate Rodgers, particularly at the very high end of the table. But I think Forrest was mentioned there earlier, and I think they showed the template. If you stick with the manager, if you back him, if you fucking just leave him at it, like I think Rodgers would have got Leicester over. I really do. I don't think that have gone down. But they had to stick or twist, and they twisted, and it's after going fucking badly wrong. There's a lot of big hitters in there, and there's a lot of big hitters in there should be ashamed of themselves, really, like that they're going to be walking out with a relegation on their CV. I'd say Iheanacho will go, Barnes will go, and Maddison will go. They'll be the 3 main ones. I'd imagine that. Tielemans is out of contract. Will Vardy be able to play 46 games next year? He won't. He won't be able to go Wednesday, Saturday, or Saturday, Tuesday, or whatever. So, yeah, look, listen, they could come back up. Of course, they could straight away. Maybe they will because of parachute payments. But I don't think any of us put the prediction down at the start of the season would have had Leicester anywhere near a relegation battle. Never mind going down. And yeah, they're fucked, basically.
P. Leicester City.
Yeah. I'll go with that. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Just wrap it up. We fuck off.
But to be quite clear, I mean, 2 things. And Shane, this is your area. You and Phil Casey will know this. You cannot get rid of a goalkeeper like Kasper Schmeichel and not replace him in the way that they did. That's one thing. And as everybody knows, I'm not a massive fan of Fat Barnes and Maddison and his attitude. Maddison gets a penalty in the Everton game, and I'm still trying to figure out to this day, 3 weeks later, what on earth he was thinking. 2-1 up, you can put your foot through. He's got the technique, and he does something ridiculous, some dance going up to it, or something stupid. Again, another young fella that wants to make Jordan Pickford look like an actual real top level goalkeeper. Jamie Vardy, I mean, the clock. But I would say if he decides to stay, he'll get 20 goals. And if they can sort out a back 4, and I'm saying they need a new back 4. I'd be cute. I'd keep Johnny Evans. Even you might get 10, 20 games out of him. He's still a very, very good player. But again, they need a real centre half. They need a couple of full backs. And yes, it's a big job, but it's a big club, and it'll be anybody that wants to play in the Premier League and needs to start in the Championship will want to go somewhere like Leicester. But you cannot to let go of a player like Kasper Schmeichel and think that you can just throw anybody in goal and just go on. It's I don't know about you, Shane. For me, Kasper Schmeichel is one of those keepers that was criminally underrated. criminally.
Look, he's listen. He's the one thing about him was he was a leader really in that dressing room, and I don't think they really had too many. Like Vardy wasn't really playing much this year. I don't think. I think Tielemans fucking dialed it in months ago. Absolutely dialed it in months ago. Doesn't want to be there. Thought he'd get a move in January. Nobody wants him because he's a fucking hamburger that can't move. He'll get a move. He'll obviously get a move somewhere in the summer. Like, but I don't rate him. He dialed it in and fucking like defensively. Like, yeah, look, if Evans had been there, you wouldn't have expected them really, or you'd expect them to be far better than they were. Because look, wasn't it? They go through a phase where defending set pieces just couldn't do it. They were conceding goal after goal after goal.
I think they were at the top
kicks.
Yeah, top of the
and I agree with you. The goalkeeping situation is very bizarre. The two of them are poor. Both of them not good enough. Borderline good enough for the championship, I'd say, the pair of them. But look, something's after gone on with the bar because Rodgers made an awful lot of noise at the end of last year saying, look, if we could get one or two in here and start looking up at it. And then when he came back from pre-season, it was more, no, look, we can't do this, we can't do that. So obviously something came from the chairman down. I think the window before, he didn't spend much last summer, but I think the one before that he spent a lot of money. And lo and behold, Brendan spent it badly, as we can relate to as Liverpool fans. So maybe they just pulled the plug on him that way, but they're after paying for it across the board.
It's down tools at Leicester.
It's I don't agree. I don't think Rodgers would have kept them up. I think, and I can't stand Brendan Rodgers, but look, I'll be honest on the situation. I think he completely lost the dressing room, and I think they left it too long with him. I think if they'd decided, and there was a big thing over his contract and paying him off, and I think it was something like if he couldn't get to a European place, they could get rid of him for cheaper, and they waited until that went, and it took so many games or whatever. The Casper Schmeichel thing is very fair, but I remember listening to a podcast, not I personally done, but the lads done on a Friday night with Jack, I think it was Jack that was on, the Leicester fan, and he might be on later on this week because we might be doing something around the relegation stuff again. But his point was that Leicester were finding it hard to spend money because they needed to get players off the books. They had a huge squad of players, a lot of them on decent money, and couldn't get rid of them. And because of that, they couldn't actually bring any more people in because they couldn't spend any more money. There was an FFP kind of issue, not an issue, but they were close. And because they couldn't get rid of players, they couldn't bring any more in and got stung. Having said that, I don't think it's any excuse for the goalkeeper stuff. I agree with you. I actually watched when I think it was Roy Hodgson's first game in charge, and they're 1-0 up, they lose 2-1 to Palace, and their keeper has a great game. He's saving fucking stuff all over the place. I thought he's okay. And then I remember a couple of weeks later people saying that fella in goal is terrible for Leicester. And I said, I seen him, he was that. And he said, no, honestly, he's terrible. But then you look at the likes of Tielemans, you look at Harvey Barnes, you look at Jamie Vardy a little bit less. He's done so much for Leicester. Like his legs are just ran off him. But you look at Iheanacho, you look at Daka, you look at Ndidi. There's so many of them there. Castagna, Pereira. Like Pereira was being linked with like nearly every top 4 club in England 2 or 3 years ago. But you look at all these, and for me, they just decided, no, that's enough. Fuck that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And what happened was, I think it led to a standoff between Rodgers and the team, right? And Rodgers knowing that he can't, and the team probably knowing he can't do anything in January anyway. You know, the sort of way because of the money issues. And then they left it too long. They were waiting to reduce that payment to Brendan Rodgers, and by the time they did that, they'd only about bleeding 6-7 games left or whatever it was. No. And then they bring in Dean Smith and Shakespeare and John Terry and on. You're like, just no forward planning. And Leeds were the same. Leeds done this back when they got rid of Bielsa and brought in Jesse Marsh, horrendous. And then they bring in your man that was at Watford, Javi Gracia, and then they do Allardyce. Like, you're like, what is going on here? It's just panic stuff. Where you should, if you're going to make an appointment with in the thoughts that if we stay up, this guy's good. If we go down, he's staying with us and he can get us back up. But it's all it's just immediate gratification. And Leicester, for me, you know, they were down, they were okay, then they just fell like a stone. And the minute they don't beat Everton, it's over for them because they can't get points. Like I watched them away in Newcastle,
and
you need to win this game. I don't think they have a shot till the 90 fucking third minute or something.
They need
Gav, you
fucking
have
won
to
it.
look at Maddison. You have
But
to
it was
look at
mad.
Maddison in that game. But you have to look at Maddison in that Everton. You have to look at his attitude. I mean, who the hell do you think you are? Put your foot through a penalty. What do you think you're doing? I mean, people talking about, oh, Maddison is holding out for Tottenham. He's holding out for this. Does anybody look at players' mentality anymore? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I guarantee you he ends up at a Spurs or a Villa or someone like that. I guarantee you someone takes him. Harvey Barnes is the same. There'll be players there indeed he'd be looked for. But as a collective, for me, Leicester just decided, oh, I've had enough here. And for me, it was definitely something between the players and the manager. And it just went on too long because the club couldn't afford to get rid of the manager. I think if they could have got rid of Rodgers 10 games earlier, I think they would have. You know what I mean? But they didn't. And just, they're gone. And do you know what? I've seen a lot from Liverpool fans, and you kind of have to take this and kind of go, you know what, they're right. Because honestly, Leicester City fans are up there with one of the worst set of fans to arrive at Anfield, and one of the worst set of fans you can go away to. So, you know, sympathy, no. Surprise, not really. But like Davo said from the start, the amount of money they owe for players and two players, like there's things there, like Sionchu's probably looks like he's already gone to Atletico Madrid on a free.
Look, they
will get rid of them,
but
your spending power is reduced then, Davo.
Yeah, you get your wage. They'll get the wage bill down. They'll get the big hitters off the books. But like, I think Maddison's a good player, but I think the issue with him is that I don't think any of the top four take him. Sorry, I think Newcastle possibly, but I don't think any. Like, he's
Newcastle were linked with him, weren't
they? He's not a centre forward. He's not a central midfielder. Does he play? Can he play off the left? Maybe he can in a midfield three. I think he's one of them number 10 players that not many teams really play.
Kind of got caught in our position, yeah. And Tico reckons he reckons he will end up in Newcastle. He was heavily linked with Newcastle, wasn't he, in last summer and January, and it never happened. But Newcastle looked there and go, we'll just take him for 20
they could just take him anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Newcastle always end up with players like that. Not quite this, you're not quite that. And that's always that down. I mean, even Sam Maxima, the flying machine they have, he's not quite this, he's not quite a Mane, he's not quite a winger. You know, they always end up with those players that are betwixt and between. So he'd probably end up there and, you know, do nothing.
Just, as I said, I'm trying to put a show together later on in the week to bring on Leeds, Leicester fans and an Everton fan as well. Just to talk.
Is Joe coming on?
Joe, I was talking to Joe today. I'm trying to sort it out. But just a quick one on Leeds, because the writing was on the wall for a long time for them. And we talk about Leicester going down and, you know, spent a lot of money the season before last, big wage bill and stuff. New owners coming in at Leeds. I think they might have something to do with the 69ers.
San Francisco 49ers.
69ers.
Yeah, good man, Gav.
49ers. And new owners coming in there. Do you worry for them as much as you worry for Leicester, Davo?
Yeah, because like the thing about it is right, it's different than the last time. I actually think I didn't click in and watch the clip, but I seen Simon Jordan saying, listen, financially they're both fine. As regards, it's not fucking Armageddon for either of them. He goes, they're gonna have to trim their wage bill, they're gonna have to get their house in order like you do when you go down, but it's not Armageddon, and they'll have the parachute payments, and he reckons the two of them could go back up. Like I said, I didn't go in and watch the clip, I just kind of seeing the heading of it. So I wouldn't overly be worried for them. Do you know what I mean? That like Leeds are down and they'll be the biggest club in the Championship next season. They'll be the ones with a target on their back to the biggest club, probably arguably down there. Leicester, big club as well for the Championship. So we could be sat here next season and the boat of them got back up. Who knows? But no, I wouldn't be worried about them dropping down again or anything like that, or financial Armageddon. No,
do you think though they have more of a chance of keeping that squad together than Leicester do? Because Leicester feel like they're at their end of a cycle where Leeds feel like they're at a mid-cycle at the minute. But there'll be players at Leeds that people will want as well.
I wouldn't say there's too many, Gavin. I'd say Leicester have more. I
Would
would
you?
say Leicester have more. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Listen, the only one that pops into my head for Leeds, well, look, your man Harrison has a relegation release clause. He'll go. I like your man, the American young fella in the middle for them, Tyler Adams. I think he's a good player. And then after that,
That fella Sinistera is quite good.
Yeah, look,
Gnont,
I haven't
is it
seen.
Gnonto? He's quite
Nanto.
good.
I haven't seen loads of them. I'm just thought, like, Nanto wasn't getting a game.
Yeah,
Like, he
like a
looked
trial.
like
Like a
one of
trial
their
is
best
coming over
players.
4 or 5
Yeah,
games.
but you have to remember he wasn't getting a game because Allardyce comes in and decided, like, you know, I want no flair in this team.
I know. I get you, but I'm actually surprised Leicester are gone down with the quality of player they have there. I'm not surprised Leeds are gone, to be quite honest with you, Gav, at all. Like, I just think that a lot of their players are just fucking so poor.
Yeah.
So poor. That
What
Junior
about-
Firpo wouldn't get a fucking game.
Wouldn't get a game with the
English
Bosco.
United second, so
Come
he
here.
wouldn't get a game with the Bosco. He's fucking atrocious.
Never wear the
Pete.
black and white. Never.
Pete.
Never.
Leeds, are you as worried as you would be about Leicester over Leeds, or do you think, like
Yeah,
Davo says, that tag on the backbone?
What a chance. They had a great chance from me to cement an identity. I talked about this last week. I was disgusted that, someone like Calvin Phillips didn't jump to go back, at least on loan till the end of the season. They had an identity when they had the Argentinian manager just
Bielsa.
run around, make it very, very difficult. As I said, the most difficult away game I'd seen Liverpool play before we went poor was there. I just thought the lads looked like they just could not breathe. And you don't need great players, you just need fit players, fit, organised players with a fit, organised, focused manager like he is. There's your identity. Now, the one weakness I thought, even when they were like that, was I never thought that the centre forward was going to stay fit enough. I thought he was a bit watery to score goals. I think Bamford is one of those lads. He looks about 9 stone wet, and he looks like his knees are just about to fold. Like, I don't know how he survives at that level playing against big centre halves. To be honest with you, he's as watery as they come, and as it turns out, he misses a lot of chances. But for me, they had something. They had an identity. You come here and you're going to have to fight for everything that you have, and for some reason, that just wasn't enough. I often think that some sides don't want to accept what they are. They look at Tottenham and they think, okay, or someone like Newcastle, we should be there. No, consolidate what you are. And you had a fine player in Phillips, everybody running around him just sitting off, being safe. They had it sorted more or less at the back with him protecting, and then they just absolutely fell apart. I just don't get it. I don't get this. We're now 11th, or we're now 13th, but it's not good enough. We need to be 7th. And Leeds kind of fell into that trap. And then when they brought in Jesse Marsh with his PowerPoint slides and just an absolute gobshite. Talk about selling yourself. I've never seen that. It's a long time since you've seen anyone as tactically inept as him.
But they come across, you see, the Bielsa and Leeds do it wrong for me. And I don't want to go into this too much because I want to talk to Joe about this. But they do it wrong where Bielsa becomes too stubborn and he won't change enough, right? And then they bring in Jesse Marsh, who I just didn't rate from the start. And I said this to Joe. I said, Joe, this is a fucking disaster. I'm telling you. And he comes in and he's like, oh, just play everyone down the middle of the pitch because the goal is in the middle of the pitch. And you're like, will you ever fuck off now? Do you know what I mean? But they just don't. And I kept saying it. They, as a team, they reacted awfully to any situation in the game, whether they were getting a goal or conceding a goal. They reacted so bad to situations in games. But we'll see how they get on. Shout out, actually, Michael Murphy says I fancy Southampton to come straight back up at the worst of the playoffs, because in fairness, I think they probably have they probably have the most potential in players there. In fairness to them,
the appointment is used from McGav. Your man Sellers isn't going to be managing next year.
No, they need a really good appointment.
They need a really good appointment.
Yeah, and do you know who'll be looking at? You remember the fella that brought Sheffield United up? He was at Middlesbrough earlier. Yeah, Wilder will end up at one of them clubs without a shadow of a doubt. So let's move on. Davo, we're going to stick with you. You're a winner of the week.
Well, Gav, unfortunately for me and you, but definitely you, it's Everton.
Yeah.
They're like a cockroach. You can't fucking you can't get them down. You can't get them. Listen, my cousin's a big blue. I spoke to him Christmas morning, and I remember saying to him, I says, if he's get rid of fucking that age at Lampard and give it to Dyche. He won't have any problems. And a little bit tighter than I thought it would be, but as soon as Dyche walked in the door, I didn't think they'd get down. So the Alsatian is fucking set free. He's grand. They weren't chasing him around the place, but look, I always looked at the fixtures. Bournemouth at home, Bournemouth at the beach, passing sides. Like even though I was listening on the radio yesterday, the last 10 minutes the ball goes up, all the fans are shitting themselves. And I don't think Bournemouth even lumped the ball into the box once to put them under a bit of pressure. Bournemouth, the perfect side to be playing against. They'll just get it down, tippy tappy stuff. They stayed up there on the beach. Perfect side for Everton to play against. So I always thought that it'd be a home win, it'd be a gimme. They got the win. So yeah, look, it was like the mid-90s again, pitch invasions all over the fucking place. But I suppose look at the worry for them is I've seen a few people throwing up a few tables the last season and this season, and they're fucking like they finished lower this year than they did last year by a place or two. That's something I'd say that's something that you'll bring up now, Gav, about what might happen or won't happen to them. But yeah, look, listen, they stayed. They had to stay up. They stayed up. They are the winner of the weekend.
Yeah, I think they are the winner of the weekend because if you go into a last weekend of a season with potentially relegated, in fairness, Leicester are winning against West Ham for the vast majority, and at half time they're in the relegation zone. They do get that. The turning points for me with Everton was, and me and you always talk about Everton, don't we, about the potential of going down. But the thing for me was when they don't get beaten at Leicester, people were like, "Oh, that Everton needed to win that." And I was like,
"No, they should have won the game.
They should have won the game." But then the penalty for Maddison, Leicester ended up winning it.
As well,
yeah,
should have scored.
When they don't do that, and then they go to Brighton and get that win, and no, they're not going down. And people are slagging me in our Telegram group on Sunday, saying, you're fucking, the Grim Reaper. I was like, lads, they're definitely scoring a goal here, right? And Leeds aren't going to win. So all they need to do is better one of these lads' results. Do you know what I mean? And like, they didn't even have to do that. They could have drawn and stayed up. Do you know what I mean? It was just, they were always going to stay up after that Brighton win. They get beaten by Man City. They get a late equaliser at Wolves last week, which was huge for them. And I just couldn't see it. And, there is things we'll get on to in a few minutes with regards to them, but the pitch invasion wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. And I think a lot of Everton fans, there was relief, but there was like, don't celebrate this. Don't over-celebrate this, because over-celebrating it justifies what the board are doing there. And like, if you take the Liverpool glasses off for a minute, the way their board carry on is a fucking disgrace. Let's be honest. We laugh about it, we joke about it.
I think that would have been I think you have obviously the elation staying up, Gav.
And
then stark reality would have hit, I'd say, about 5 or 10 minutes after the game.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Listen, that's what the fuck.
But in fairness, they stayed up. We'll get on to another few bits in a minute. But P, they're the winner of the week because, in fairness, Leicester win. Forget Leeds. It was always between Leicester and Everton for me. Leicester win their game, and I actually think if Bournemouth had equalised, Everton would have went down, because of the way it went. But they held their nerve, they stayed up and done it by the skin of their teeth. And some teams have kept hold of their manager, but they had to get rid of that fella, P. And Dyche gets them there in the end.
I completely disagree with them being a winner of the week. I'll tell you why. Okay, they're a winner by qualification, the fact that they've stayed up, fair enough. But I think Everton, the reason I'm going to make this point, I'm going to underline it with the fact that Sean Dyche made a comment afterwards. He looked at the celebrations and the smoke and all that, and he was like, we shouldn't be doing this. This is Everton Football Club. And he got immediately slated, by an awful lot of the people that I would follow on social media, because I very interested in their attitude. They're like, he doesn't get us. This is a great moment for Everton. And some of these lads are in their late 30s and 40s. Everton, hear me out. Everton have
I don't disagree with you.
No, Everton have completely forgotten who they are. Completely. I mean, and I know I've laboured on this point before, but I grew up and in fear of them as a child, because you got them in semi-finals and finals, you were racing for titles with them, and they had genuinely great. One stage they had the best goalkeeper in the world. They probably had equally, alongside Ian Rush, the best striker in the league, and Graham Sharp. I know that's a long, long time ago, but I remember those days. And but for the European ban, they would have done something serious in Europe. That's who they are, or rather, that's who they were. But that's completely gone. That's like when I think about John Barnes and Ian Rush. That those times have continued on through other players. Everton's good times are completely erased. It's almost like they don't exist, and their quality has been erased from existence. Now they identify as we're the lads like Oldham Athletic. They're like Oldham. We're the lads that stay up at Boundary Park the last kick of every season, and that's who we are, aren't we? That's what their identity is. And the minute you start accepting mediocre, you become mediocre. And Everton are beneath mediocre and have it, and not only accepted it, Gav, they're embracing it. And that's why I think they're complete losers. I can't believe what I'm looking at.
I disagree with you then, right? And I don't disagree on the foundation of your argument, because I feel, and I was talking to people in Liverpool last week, and my thing on Everton is that Everton think they've an identity, but they don't. And the matter of fact that Everton's identity to me, and if Everton fans are watching, you can disagree with me, but I think I'm right. They spend so much time bothered by what's going on a couple of 100 yards across a park that they forget to look after their own gaff, right? It's like someone looking at someone's garden and going, look at their fucking garden, and there's rubbish all in your garden and you're paying no attention, right? And that's the biggest issue, right? I don't think they're celebrating mediocrity though, because most of the stuff I listen to, Dave Downey on the Blue Room has been banging on about this for so long, and everyone on there. And in fairness, if you go and listen to the Blue Room, it's a brilliant Everton podcast because they are so fucking honest. It's untrue, right? They'll tell you if they're shit. They'll tell you about this. They'll lash owners out of it. They'll absolutely go for it, and they won't try, well look, they won't try play it down like, like we're just this. Man. They're not. They're like, listen, this fella came in. He spun us a fucking yarn. He spent a load of money. He's given the wrong people the money to spend on the wrong fucking players, and we continue to do it. And he doesn't hide from the debts the club have, or the problem they have with finances. But one of his main things was, I think it might have been after the Brighton result, was if we stay up, there should be nobody on that fucking pitch celebrating, right? Cheer that we've stayed up, and then literally seconds later, this is not to happen again. He said, because you have to remember, we said this 12 months ago. It shouldn't happen again. And it is happening again. And his thing, and a lot of Everton fans I listen to, is if you stay up, great, because the club wants to stay up. They need to stay up. But you can't continue on like this. And that owner is going to get lashed. Usmanov had to go. They've lost a shitload of money there. There was rumour then Usmanov was putting money into the club through a third party. People are going on about what will happen with Everton and their finances. The way I understand it, and again I'm going to try to talk to Dave later in the week, is Everton had losses which were extortionate. Everton tried to tell the Premier League that it was down to COVID and it was down to stadium costs. Now that would have meant that their COVID losses was double anyone else. It's actually a complete opposite to Man City, who are making a profit during COVID, so go figure, right? Yeah. The Premier League couldn't nail them on it because of that whole COVID fucking thing, and it's a bit wishy-washy. And Everton came out and said they were working with the Premier League to sort out these issues, because no matter what way you look at it, they lost 300 and odd million in 3 years. It's not allowed. So 105 million is your losses over 3 years. That's it. They said they were working closely with the Premier League, and then they definitely done something wrong, because the Premier League then went, we're charging you. I think they signed someone on money, and the Premier League went, well, hold on a minute, you can't be doing that. If we're working together with you, you need to be taking costs down here. Yeah. And then the Premier League charged them. Now, I think the Premier League would have liked them to go down yesterday, because it would have got rid of their issue. But their issue now stands. And you've 3 teams that have gone down. You've 3 teams, more importantly, that are coming up into the division fighting for their lives, possibly with Everton, and going, are these just losing money hand over fist and everything's okay here? Talk of investment into the club. But I don't know how close that is, or if it's happened. But to be honest with you, Everton will need to be dealt with between now and August the 12th. There's no two ways about it. A couple of comments here. Brian says 300 million they lost over 3 year periods. It's a farce. I think it is a farce. Yeah,
nothing will happen them, Gaff.
Well, you see, if you charge,
let's wait till it's
but you mentioned it earlier, Pete, about authority showing their teeth. Yeah, the only authority to show their teeth in England is the EFL.
Yeah,
the Premier League don't.
Yeah,
never do.
But the problem here, Davo, is
Gav is right. they wanted them gone, so their hands were washed them, so they didn't have to do it. Down to the EFL, and then they could fucking EFL will go, you're getting, well, they'd probably be all right under their jurisdiction. But I'm telling you now, I would be absolutely fucking amazed if anything serious happens to Everton over these charges.
And Davo, don't get me wrong, if they just come out and said we're charging you, and Everton were like, well, it was COVID and it was this, I would agree with you. But the difference here is that the Premier League went to them and they gave the Premier League an excuse and said they were working closely with the Premier League to sort these financial issues out. And then within 6 months, the Premier League are charging them because they've clearly overstepped the mark somewhere. So if they're charging them because they've overstepped the mark, and they're going to have to sort it out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what it was, there was rumours, I don't know if you remember, in and around that time that Jordan Pickford was going to be sold. And then 2 weeks later, it spun on its head and they gave him a new contract. And it sounded to me like that was the straw that broke. Because working with the Premier League is saying, okay, we will try to balance the books. But instead, they took their most valuable asset, and he is their most valuable asset, and they went, no, we're going to hang on to him for another 6 years, and we're going to pay him X. Do you know what I mean? And I think that must have been, okay, use that, take the piss now.
I think the big thing for Everton is if they get a transfer ban or a point, or I don't think it'd be both, or a transfer ban or a point deduction, I think they're in massive trouble because that squad doesn't stay up next season, right? And remember, that'll be a squad where fellas just go, I'm out. Good luck, I'm out. End of story. Do you know what I mean? And if a points deduction, like they're averaging 35 points a season, it's not going to do you with a points deduction. Andrew Chill says, did anybody see the video of the Everton fan claiming that staying up was better than anything you get at Anfield? I have. It's a follow-up from last season when they said you can win European Cups, you can win leagues, but you can never experience a night like Goodison Park and Frank Lampard taking in the adulation of the masses. So, look, they've stayed up. I agree with Davo. They are a winner a week on that basis. But it is a real case of watch this space, and I'm going to do my best to get an Everton fan on because as much as we laugh and joke about it, I do actually have an interest in finding out what's going on there. That's my understanding of it from a very simple.
You should get him on, Gav. You should, if you can get on. Dave Downey is one of
Dave Downey sound. Yeah, I'm going to give him a text after this. Last one. P, your loser of the week.
The Premier League, and it's a continuation of what we've just been talking about, Gav. And Davo picked up on it straight away. Earlier on, we talked about, and the reason I dropped that, Easter egg was, when an organisation wants to show that it has teeth, it will show it has teeth. The Premier League, unlike Serie A and unlike other organisations, I believe in sport. This is not, by the way, this is not a court of law. This is sport. Until you can prove yourself innocent. We can talk about Manchester City if you like, whereby Manchester City makes statements saying that we have irrefutable evidence to prove our innocence. And Everton say we're working with the Premier League. Okay, shows the work, shows the evidence. So for me, the Premier League are a big bunch of losers because they decide that, you look at Leicester, forget about Leeds, but Leeds to a lesser extent. If you look at Leicester, if you, in March, when this all came out, that it was, chargeable, everything, the Premier League is not an organisation that will announce charges unless they have evidence. What you do is you then deduct on the spot, 10-point deduction. And it's up to you, Everton, Manchester City, to prove that you shouldn't have that 10-point deduction, which is what Serie A did to Juventus. They deducted them 15 points and give them the opportunity to appeal, and they got it down to 10 points. That's the way a real sporting organisation. Don't get me wrong, Serie A is not the exemplar of grace and transparency, but at least there's consequences for stepping across the mark. The Premier League is too concerned with pissing off powerful and rich owners and destroying their brand that they have destroyed their brand, and that they are pissing off powerful and rich. It's incredible what paralysis will do. Even if you come out and make a statement, make a stand, and it's the wrong stance, it's better than the bullshit that's going on right now, which is nothing. So what you're saying to clubs like, let's say, for example, Aston Villa could decide, okay, we're in the Conference League now. Their owners have a lot of money. They might decide now, based on the precedent that's been set this year, why don't we do this? Why don't we overspend by 100 million? Because there'll be no consequence. Let's try and nick one of those trophies that we're in, and let's go for it. and we'll just get a hugely expensive lawyer, say Lord Panic KC. We'll get him on it, and we'll just kick the can down the road 4 years. And by the time it gets to court, we'll appeal it on the basis that, whatever, it's a Birmingham fan that's sitting on the panel. And by the time the verdict comes out, we'll appeal that. You have to have teeth. You have to have consequence. You have to show fans and people that wrongdoing is wrong and will be dealt with. Show us your evidence that will refute the consequence that you're facing, and then we'll work backwards from there. I think the Premier League is broken. I think it's broken completely.
Davo, Premier League.
Yeah, look, I mentioned it earlier. I just really, I wouldn't have any faith in the Premier League, putting any serious sanction on Everton. I think they just want to fucking let sleeping dogs lie. They were embarrassed with the Manchester City stuff. I know City bring a fucking lawyers that could defend the fucking Gulf state with them. Whether Everton would deal with that as good as City, I doubt. But I just like we've seen. We've heard of that. We've heard of that.
Governance. The FA, in fairness, the Premier League. The difference between UEFA, there's an appeal system where you can go to an arbitration. Like
you can go to the Court of Arbitration of Sport. With the
Premier League, the reason I'm frustrated with the Premier League is because they don't have that system. The Premier League is self-governing. If they hand you a sentence or if they hand you a ban, that's it. Unless you have the evidence to show them that is irrefutable, as Manchester City say, or we're working with you, you are done.
There's 4 years.
Yeah, but you see, this is where my big issue comes in, right? I think Everton and City are two completely different situations. I think Everton spent, got hit by COVID, was doubled down on it, lose a shitload of money. Like, they've lost 275 million in 3 years. There's no way around that, right? Their only argument is that it's COVID and stadium costs. Now, even at that, right? Even if the Premier League allowed so much of that, they've definitely done something for the Premier League to be walking alongside them and then go, oh no, hold on, bang, the charge is out because you've done something wrong, right? That's the first thing. And when it comes to Everton, they're going to have to be dealt with before August the 12th. You cannot go into, whether that's them cleared, right? Whether they show the proof and go, no, hold on, this is blah, 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 blah. And the Premier League go, okay, fine, we've charged it, we've looked into it. But because it's not going to be one of those where people go, oh, nothing's being said. It's going to have to be out there as to exactly what happens, right? That's fine. Even if they're cleared or whatever, you cannot start another Premier League season with Everton having a charge from the FA over them. Or from the Premier League, sorry. A charge from the Premier League over them. But you can't, Davo, because what happens then is, right, you have, say for argument's sake, Crystal Palace, right? And Crystal Palace go into the next season and go, we've lost a couple of players, right? And I'm only taking them as an example. And Crystal Palace go, what the fuck's happening with Everton here? Do you know what I mean? And Crystal Palace then finish below Everton next season and go in 18th position. And what? We're going through the season, we still don't know. Everyone needs to know what's going on. And not only that, all these clubs,
but that makes sense. But you're
but this is what I'm saying. Like, you're talking about 4 years and stuff like that, right? But that's City for the minute. But with Everton, we're talking about Everton first. That charge is out there, right? Now, Everton have probably had 4 months, I think, 3-4 months to know exactly what the charge is. And it's not, for me, it wouldn't be too intrinsic. Like, it's, Everton know what the problem is. If they're being charged, they know what the charge is for what they've done beyond, working with the Premier League. And now they have to answer it. And
exactly.
And what I'm saying is, right, you have, from yesterday, which was May the 28th, you now have to June, July, you have 9 weeks until the new season starts, somewhere around there, right? The Premier League should be turning around and going, well, listen, by the way, we're holding this on the 15th of July, whatever day, the Monday in that week. You better be there, right? And if you don't turn up, we're doing you, and this is what we're going to do. Turn up, it's going to take 4 days, and we're going to decide whether to clear you, give you a transfer ban, and that's the way it should be done. The same at Manchester City. Manchester City are claiming that, you know, oh, we're above bar for the last 2 years. That's not the point. The point is that Manchester City overinflated everything they got above market value, made up sponsors from third parties, even though it was their own money, and over the course of 9 years, manipulated everything to put themselves in a position that from 2019 or whatever onwards, that they're self-sufficient. Of course you'd be self-sufficient. If I give you 10 years to manipulate any situation, you could make it look as clean as anything come then. They've put 105 charges in front of them. They shouldn't be allowing City to kick that down the road. They should say to City, listen, by the way, we're doing them on the 14th of July. And on the 24th of July, you're in front of us. We call the fucking shots here. Not lawyers. Your lawyers, if they're that good, will be ready for the 24th of July for a week-long tribunal. Right? A week-long tribunal. And we're going into next season, and everyone's going to know whether Man City are in the league, not in the league, deducted points, whatever it might be, and the same with Everton, and the same with anyone else that does it.
Yeah, walk back from the punishment, Gav. To be honest. I mean, if I'm Leicester City, for example, I'm looking at the fact that Jordan Pickford, for example, has probably, with his couple of penalty saves, and has probably kept the Everton in the Premier League. He was their most valuable asset, and in order to balance the books, if you're working with the Premier League to balance the books, you're selling your most valuable asset. Instead of doing that, they've given him a new contract. If I'm Leicester, I'm pointing to him and I'm saying, that's the reason why we're going down. And you're telling me I can have 30 million as a, sorry about that, you're relegated in court? No thanks. Punishment, and then prove that you haven't done it. It's ridiculous. The Premier League's broken. It's not fit for purpose. You're right, Gav. Punish people first like they do in Italy. And then if you can prove that there's some bizarre reason COVID hit you harder than anybody in the world, or as Manchester City, you have all of this evidence up your arsehole that no one has seen it.
My biggest thing on this is, right, we all talk about Man City's. I think Everton one is fairly straightforward. I think they've given an excuse. They're kind of going, not too sure about that. Let's work with them and see where it goes. And then they've realised something and went bang, you're done, right? The thing with Man City is that Man City apparently are coming out and going, oh, well, the fella on that is an Arsenal fan. So fucking what?
It's Trumpian. That's Trump.
But this is what I'm saying. If Man City have nothing to hide, right, and have all the best lawyers in the world and all the best accountants, show up. The Premier League shouldn't be sitting there going, let us know when you're ready there. You should be just turning around going, we have charged you in February. Now we're giving you 5 months to sort this out and come back whatever way you want. Gavin, and we're going in on July.
Can I just tell you about Lord Panic? What Lord Panic KC does. What the lawyer that Manchester, what he doesn't plead cases. He's not there to plead the case. He's there to pick holes in what is a slam dunk. He's there to question the validity of the Premier League's case. He's not there to defend. There is no evidence that can exonerate Manchester City. The only defence they will have is to attack the case that the Premier League has. Panic did it. He represented Boris Johnson in Partygate and all of the trouble, because Boris Johnson should be locked up. I mean, he shouldn't be able to hold any kind of license at all. But he what he does, guys like Panic, is they attack the system from within, and that's why it's so obvious and cynical what Manchester City are doing.
Well,
they know they don't have any evidence. They know, so they go to Lord Panic, someone who defends criminals, basically, to defend their position. Well, the Premier League's broken.
Darius Hoyt says, this super chat, by the way, and thanks a million for it. He says, this seems like a lot of moaning. Not that I think you're all wrong, but do you actually expect the Premier League to have a punishment that will actually hurt Man City or Everton or whatever? Yeah, Darius, listen, it's definitely a lot of moaning. I'm not going to fucking deny that, right? And do I actually expect the Premier League to have a punishment? Davo will tell you no, right? And all of us will probably tell you no. But that doesn't stop you having the right to speak up about this. And what you're going to find is now, I think you're going to have more Arsenal fans talking up about it. I think Man United fans don't know what to fucking do because Qatar is still hanging around that gaff, right? But I think the likes of Spurs fans that are looking going, we're spending fucking money and we're getting nowhere here. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea are a basket case, so don't worry about them. But it was always Liverpool asking these questions, and now you're seeing more and more asking questions. And let's be honest, Darius, the services you actually pay for to watch football and get insights and get live football say fucking nothing about Man City, right? They lauded it over Man City when they won the league last week. And listen, Man City, the players on the pitch, won the league last week. There's no doubt about that. But not one of them turned around and went, listen, they won the league, but hold on. Do you know what I mean? Is there anything going to be done about this? And you have to speak out about it. And my only thing on it is, I'm not saying City, well, I believe City have done something wrong, right? But I'm not for a minute like saying like that they couldn't turn up and go, hold on, by the way, all these sponsors were grand and all these were grand, right? I find it hard to believe, but nothing is impossible. But what I'm saying is that if City have nothing to hide, and they've wheeled their manager out to say this, by the way, I'm all completely up to date with this and everything's absolutely fine. If it wasn't, I'll leave. Now he's saying no matter what, I'll stay. You know, the sort of way. And he's being wheeled out. My only issue with this is that the Premier League, but my only issue is, Pete, the Premier League govern this, not Manchester City. So if you give them something, you should say to them, we're going on this date. And if you don't fucking like it, right, we will proceed without you and just hand you a ban or hand you whatever we feel we need to hand you. If you want to turn up and defend yourself, by all means do it. You could be cleared, right? You could be found guilty on certain charges and we'll have to put a thing on that. You could be found guilty on all charges. But if Man City have nothing to hide, they should be banging on the Premier League's door going, we have all the evidence, here it is. And they're not. Like Pep turning around and going, I want this sorted, let's get it sorted. Bullshit. You don't. Because if your club actually wanted to do it, they would do it. And you're probably right, Darius. Do we expect a punishment? No, but it should not stop you from asking the question. And this is going on years. Years it's going on. And you know what? We'll see how it goes. Ashley says Liverpool fans' questions of City is like pissing into the wind. It will only gain traction if more teams get involved. Arsenal getting involved is a good thing. Arsenal have definitely got involved. And more clubs will get involved. And what's going to happen here is now you will see teams, Luton, right? Whoever is down around those areas, we'll be looking going, hold on, we want to know we're starting on a level footing here. We want to know we're starting on a level footing. Whether you're going for a title, you're going for top four, right? And you're going for relegation. You want to know that one team isn't massively in debt trying to stay in this league while you have to stay within rules. You want to know that you're not absolutely putting yourself way out there because you're against a team that's manipulating the situation, and you want to know that, and more teams need to start asking the question.
Well, it's funny you should say it, Gav, because Luton Town started League 2 in 2008-2009, says minus 30 points because of the exact same situation that Manchester City and Everton have been in. And by the way, it's not even debatable, they've been in it. So if I'm Luton Town, I'm thinking, how am I staying up? If these two are punished heavily going into 23-24, I will have a 66% better chance of staying up. Considering and now that I've got a vote in the Premier League, you better believe I'm going to jump up and down for that. And I'm going to start doing it now, not when I've got 10 points in January. I'm going to start doing it now.
Davo, I'll give you the last word. Davo. Do you think it's a watershed moment with regards to this? Because it's two teams, one with massive debt, all right, staying in the league, and one who I believe have manipulated finances in certain ways to put themselves in a position over what's more or less a 15-year period now. Do you think it's a watershed moment for the Premier League? Because if they don't, whether they clear them or not, if they don't come out and be absolutely concise in what they do here, it's just a free-for-all and forget about it. Is that where we are?
Yeah, that's where we are. Listen, I think like Ray Charles can say that City should be punished. There's 115 charges there that obviously the Premier League have taken their time, done their due diligence, and Everton should be absolutely punished as well. But I don't like the cynic in me would say that Everton could probably get punished. If one of them's going to get punished, the cynic could tell me it's Everton because City are gone too big, type of thing. That would be the cynic in me saying that both should be punished. Like I said, the cynic in me, if one of them is going to end up getting a punishment, I'd say it'll probably be Everton. But I don't think either of them get punished, to be quite honest with you. Well, listen, the City thing, they're saying it's going to be 2 years and 4 years and fucking, do you know what I mean? It's fucking, do you know what I mean? It's fucking, what do they call it, Pete, when your man gets up in the debate just to fucking drag it out all the time over in the US? I can't think of the name.
It's delay tactics. That's exactly what Trump
delay
is doing.
Tactics, exactly. That's what City are doing. They're kicking the can down the road. I don't think everything get punished either, I have to be honest with you. I think we've seen stuff before as regarding Remember West Ham stayed up and they Tevez and Mascherano and third-party ownership, and Sheffield United wanted a few bob, and fucking Wigan went down and blah, 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 and a lot of noise and all back then as well about wanting this and wanting that. The Premier League just tell them to fuck off. So I don't think... I'd be surprised. Like, it could be something stupid like a fine, Gav. They might charge them and give them a fine, which, like, there's nothing really. Like, I know they're in debt, but they're going to sort themselves out and get back onto a decent footing, you'd imagine. So
yeah, but Everton...
That's what I would say. That's probably what will fucking happen. They'll just fudge it with a fine.
But in simple terms, right, Everton, right, might lose a lot of players this summer out of contract, but Everton would need to absolutely start slashing what they're paying out on wages to everybody to try to get this in. 300 million over 3 years is fucking mental. But look, it's a chat for another day.
Yeah, it always get Dave on. He can fill us in more.
Yeah, I will. I'll try my best. Listen, it's something that's going to come up again, but I don't apologise about talking about it. You know what I mean? No. Because like let's like Red Leader's there. He says Arsenal fan, but here I agree, fellas. Liked and sub, fair play. Thanks a million, Red Leader. And this is what I'm talking about. More Arsenal fans. But let me just leave you with this thought. If Liverpool Football Club turned around tomorrow and manipulated finances for 5 years, okay, and we're getting all these things in, let me know what way you think the media will carry on, because it will be fucking the exact opposite of what you're seeing right now. And that's what we're talking about. And look, it'll definitely come up in the future. People are going, I think there's more and more going to be put on this over the summer. I think it's going to be one of those where if Man City look to sign a player, it's going to be, well, hold on, sign all these players, what's going on here? It's going to continue on. And the only way you're going to get some sort of resolution to this is if people talk about it and constantly talk about it until the Premier League go, we need to deal with this. And they should be doing that anyway. They have charged the club with fucking serious charges, and they shouldn't be sitting there like smoking, going, listen, give us a shout there in 3 years when you have your accounts and all that. But just stop. Just put a date on it. Get them in. And if City are that adamant that they've done nothing wrong, it'll only take a day or two and we'll be all over it. So let's go and do it. Anyway, that has been Winners and Losers. Thanks to P. Thanks to Davo. They've been regulars on this show all season. They love doing it, except what Davo doesn't if he's had a point.
But yeah, Jason,
Davo will text me on a Sunday going, I'm having a few points, you know the score. But no, Pete, Davo, Dicko is a regular on here as well. Thanks to them for all their work this season on that. Like I said last night, we are going to continue on shows. We are off tomorrow, but we're looking to do a couple of shows before the end of the week, and then from next week we'll be into having some fun as the season goes on. The pre-season goes on. Transfers, quizzes, drafts, whatever it might be. Give us a shout. If you're watching any shows, just throw it in the chat if you have an idea for the show, or give us an email, and we'll try to do our best for you over the summer. Davo, Pete, thanks a million. Thanks everyone in the chat. It's been an absolute pleasure. That has been Winners and Losers. Over and out.